The book opens with Major Hayward and the sisters Cora and Alice as they begin the trek to Fort William Henry guided by a Native American named Magua. It is the 1750s in New York at the height of the French and Indian War, during which the British fought the French and the Indians. After taking the dangers of the woods far less seriously than they probably should, they come across the white scout Natty Bumppo, aka Hawkeye, as well as his two Native American companions, Chingachgook and his son Uncas, the sole surviving members of the Mohican tribe. After a brief conversation, Magua is discovered to be a member of the Huron tribe, who is leading them in the wrong direction for his own personal gain. The Mohicans try to capture the Huron, but he escapes. The Mohicans then lead them in the right direction and make camp in a cave under a waterfall, but Magua comes back, this time with reinforcements, and captures Hayward and the sisters. The Hurons take them back to the camp, and Magua tells them how evil he is, and says that Cora and Alice's dad, Colonel Monroe, wronged him in the past, and now Magua is out for revenge. He says he will free Alice if Cora marries him, and Cora doesn't want to marry him because he's nuts, so Magua tries to kill all three of them, but before he can, Hawkeye and the Mohicans come in, kill everybody, and get the heck out of there. After a series of Indian attacks, an encounter with a Frenchman who Uncas scalps when nobody's looking, and sneaking through a battle under the cover of darkness, Alice and Cora are finally reunited with their dad. Then they spend some time at the fort, during which it is discovered that Cora's mom was black. The fort has been under siege by the French for so long that they are probably going to lose if they don't get reinforcements from a nearby fort. They don't get reinforcements from a nearby fort. During the march away from the fort that they just surrendered, the English are attacked by the bloodthirsty Indian allies of the French. During the battle, Magua captures Cora, Alice, and some singing Calvinist named David Gamoux, who we met in the first chapter, but I didn't talk about. 3 days later, Hayward, Hawkeye, Monroe, and the Mohicans discover Magua's trail and begin to pursue the villain. Gamoux reappears and explains that Magua has separated his captives, confining Alice to a Huron camp and sending Cora to a camp of another Indian tribe, the Delaware. Using deception and a variety of disguises, the group manages to rescue Alice from the Hurons, at which point Hayward confesses he loves her. At the Delaware village, Uncas convinces the tribal leader to release all of the prisoners except Cora, who Magua captures again. A chase ensues. Cora gets killed, Uncas gets killed by Magua, who then tries to escape by jumping across a ravine, but then gets shot by Hawkeye and falls to his death. Quick side note. The most notable difference in film adaptation is that Alice dies and Cora survives. Side note over. In the aftermath of the battle, Chorus and Uncas receive proper burials, while the Delawares perform ritual chants. Chingachgook mourns the death of his son, who was the last of the Mohicans.
Hawkeye. Hawkeye sees himself as a man without crossing. He sees himself between the native and English cultures and with a religion. Major Hayward. He is a major of the English army and fights against the French and their Mingo allies. He plays a well-meaning but slightly foolish white man, the conventional counterpart of Hawkeye. Uncas. Uncas is the son of Chingachgook, and he is the last-born Mohican. Uncas shows a lot of changes in the book. He pushes limits of interracial relationships. Magua. He is a traitor in the eyes of Hawkeye. Magua is seeking revenge for Colonel Monroe for his exile. He doesn't want to bodily harm him, just mentally harm him. Iroquois. The Iroquois would attack the Mohicans with rifles and with gamut. The Iroquois are an enemy tribe of Indians who attack Hawkeye and the Mohicans. A Huron. They are a thievish race. Nor do I care by whom they are adopted. You can never make anything of them. The Hurons are allied with Magua because Magua is a Huron.
The primary conflict in this novel is man versus man, as we notice the whites versus Indians, Indians versus the Indians, and English versus the French. The Mohicans are in a constant battle with the Hurons, or helping someone else. A warrior loses his life at the hands of another warrior, raging the conflict even further. Man versus nature is shown while they are using caves or trees as shelter, or even a hideout, as well as a literal frontier, but it isn't always to their advantage. For example, the Mohicans were crossing a river, and the Hurons caught up to them because the river slowed them down.
The nature and the last of the Mohicans is the main setting of the book. Forests, mountains, caves, and waterfalls display the beauty of the scenery, yet they also demonstrate a major conflict during a period of days from late July to mid-August 1757. The concept of man versus nature poses a constant threat to the characters. With its native Indians and unfamiliar terrain, the setting gives way to many hardships that the characters must face. Primarily, the consequences the characters endure due to their actions while avoiding and dealing with the threat of nature involve more conflicts arising or already present conflicts coming into view. The use of rhetorical appeals in The Last of the Mohicans isn't used by the dialogue of the characters so much as it is used by the author's description of each situation and place that an event occurred in. The way the story is played out with calm scenes following after bloody war scenes gives way to the author's use of pathos in order to make the reader feel love and hate towards specific characters or events. In terms of describing characters or settings, ethos and logos are rarely used in the book. Little credibility is given to the characters who are leading the group other than the fact that they are on the same side as the others. Logos is mostly used in order to give background information about the characters. Hawkeye knowing about parts of the land because of a past battle, for example.
Themes that can be found throughout the book are interracial love, loss, war, and the wild. Cora, an English colonel's daughter, is a love interest with Uncas, while Cora is English and Uncas is of the Mohican tribe, representing interracial love. Loss is represented even in the title, hence the last of the Mohicans. Throughout each battle, some characters die, some more significant than others, but the loss is noticed, as it impacts what would seem to be the storyline. Many conflicts arise and represent war. While in the woods, a war is always happening. One may end or just leave for a time, and a new war is around the corner. Whether it's a conflict of trying to find Cora and Alice, or whether the Mohicans come across the Hurons in a river. Lastly, the wild. The whole setting is taking place in the wild. They're surrounded by nature that is used in their defense, or as protection. It's a resource that is always at their fingertips, and they're so familiar with it, so they take advantage of what they have.
The tone that James Fenimore Cooper is making in the book, that love can be a dangerous thing in war. Violence can cause this to be destroyed, especially during a time of war. The love that Hawkeye shows for Cora throughout the book. In some parts of the book, their love is always in danger because of Magua and the Iroquois and Hurons. In the book, it says pity, admiration, and horror. Cora shows Magua pity, but she still has love for Hawkeye. Then there's admirations of Hawkeye. When he is with Cora, he is in love with her. The admirations cause him to be in love. Then there is horror. The horror of war can destroy love and tear it to pieces, and it will never come back to you as long as you live. The death of Cora probably in some way destroyed Hawkeye, and it will probably be hard for him to live. This is what happens when something is made up at the wrong time, especially during a time of war. But there is nothing that can prepare you for the horror and torment of war, and can cause you to lose hope in love itself.